Hey guys, how you doing? My name's Ryan and this is the first show of So You Want to Be a VFX Artist. This is a continuation of my Blender tutorials, but however, we're going to be discussing some really cool stuff in this tutorial. Blender and more Blender, because that's what we're going to be looking at. And not only that, but I've gotten myself more advanced in, I've challenged myself to do things that I've always wanted to do in Blender. Over the course of my holidays, I did those things. And once I've done the holiday stuff, we'll look at other things that we've done. So like e.g. right now I'm looking, this week we are doing a challenge where me and another guy called Victor, who is only 14 years old, we've got a challenge to model a character, rig him up, and make him do 9 different movements like backflip, jump, run, a dance move or something like that. And that is due on Friday. Today's Tuesday and I'm still working on him. I've modeled him. But anyway, more about that later. So those are the things that we're going to be doing on this. So you want to be a VFX artist. I want to emphasize that we are working with Blender. I won't be working with After Effects or showing you any other things, but except for the challenges that I will do, that I'll put myself onto, and I will show you the process. And the first one that I've done this year, which is something that I've always wanted to do, okay, just specifically, and I have wanted to do it for about 5 years ago. That was the time that I remember that I wanted to get 3D tracking right, and I never got it right. It turned out weird, never really worked out, and eventually, you know, you just give up. And then what you do is you end up doing what's called 2D tracking. If you got DaVinci Resolve, okay, Resolve, yes, DaVinci Resolve. Within it, there is tracking software as well. I use DaVinci Resolve, I use Blender, and for editing I use Final Cut. So we're gonna look at some of that stuff. But anyway, 3D tracking, I've always wanted to get it right, and finally I had a go at it again, and I actually got it right, and then I got it right again. And then after I got it right again, I got it right again. I'm sure Blender has advanced their 3D tracking, you know, their algorithm and stuff like that, to make 3D tracking a lot easier. And so I'm going to take you through the process that I found works for 3D camera tracking. Alright, I've looked at multiple tutorials, I've tried some stuff, tried other stuff, found other things didn't work, but other things did work. Alright, and so let's go through a couple of things that I did find out, and that is to do with your camera settings. So number one, alright, make sure that your let me get my DSLR. Alright, so if you've got a DSLR, you want to have a look at some of your settings. And one of the first things that I discovered, because I didn't get camera tracking immediately right when I tried it now again, there were things that failed, and so I had adjusted certain things. And the first thing you want to do is your shutter speed. Now what your shutter speed basically is how quick or how slow, when you got it in camera mode, how long or how slow it's going to keep the shutter open. When you use it in video mode, it is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the amount of scans basically that it's picking off the data, the data off the chip of your image sensor. And so, for example, I shoot in 25 FPS, 25 frames per second. So I have to make sure that that number is within basically the multiples of my frame rate. So e.g. 2 times 25 FPS is 50. Okay. If I bring it lower, then you'll actually start finding jaggedness within my footage, just a slight jaggedness, and that's because it's doing it every 25. It's not as smooth. The higher I go, if you go out, so for example, if this was on 60, you start finding, you know, with the movement, you start finding lines in that. It starts getting choppy. The higher you go, the more smoother your movement goes, etc. And if your frame rate is too low, so I found if I had this on 25, my tracking would fail, right? It would battle, and that's, I think it's specifically because one frame, for example, if you're tracking the tip of my finger, one frame will be on the tip of my finger, and then the next frame it'll be too far, and therefore the tracker cannot, you know, find it. But when it's smooth, the next frame your finger will be quite close. It's close to frames per second, but it's not. But anyway, I found when I brought that to 50, it would be beautiful. So check your frames per second on your camera. All right. The other thing that I did is, because I did quite advanced tracking, like in a lot of movement, and when it failed and I was battling with it, I tried some simple movements, maybe just a pan across, maybe just a tilt. And what I found was, when I used my wide angle lens, I did battle, and I'm sure there are some options within Blender to help you with the lens distortion. I then used my normal standard lens that comes with the camera, your Canon camera, which is the 18 to 55. Yes, it's the 18 to 55. I came right, but then I tried the frames per second, so I think that might have fixed it. But however, saying that, I've never tried my wide angle lens again. I've got a 10mm wide angle, and I've never tried it again because I was coming right. Okay, and then there are other settings that I've had a look at in Blender. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to track a small piece that I've showed you, that I've tracked and I've added VFX to already, but I'm going to start basically from scratch with it. So let's go to Blender. Alright, so opening up Blender. Right, so let me just show you what I've gotten right. So this I actually filmed at a place called Gold Reef City in South Africa. Alright, I liked the statues here. Let me just quickly show you basically what it was. And you can see the stuff that I've added in. Don't worry about what's there and what's not there, but you can see how the 3D stuff that I've added in is perfectly in. Okay, and you can see the motion that I actually did as well. I was quite brave with this and I got it right. Okay, so pretty simple, quite straightforward. Right, so let's start a new scene, because I'm sure you're interested in seeing from scratch how I did this. Now the first thing that you want to do is that you want to go to the right layout window here. Alright, click on the plus sign, because there are other workspaces here. So these are workspaces, yes, but they are layouts, specific layouts towards what you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to go to VFX, I'm going to go to motion tracking. Now in motion tracking, you can see they've set it up nicely for you. They've done the layout quite nicely so that you can do this motion tracking with ease. And the important thing here to start off with is over here, where you can open up. So now this is where you need to load your footage. So I'm going to go and open up my footage. You can see Gold Reef. And oh yes, the other thing that I did with my footage is, although I filmed in 4K, so that I've got a good high quality high resolution shot, because especially if it's going to track smaller points, you want the small points to show up nicely. I converted it down to 1080p and I cut the exact piece that I wanted, just so that I'm not tracking a whole lot of unnecessary stuff. So let's load that up now. So there it is, there's my piece of footage. The first thing that I want to, well actually that was the first thing that I want to do. The next thing that I want to do, yes, let's use the next thing, is I want to make sure that my frames per second is right according to my footage as well. So like I said, 25 frames per second. Then with that said and done, a tip that I've always done, never really tried not doing it, but it seems to work, is that I want to change my color space. And I think it helps with the contrast. So if you actually look at this footage, it looks a bit washed out. If I go to a color management and it's here, no, it is here, view transformation, I'm going to go to standard, and you can see how the contrast has somewhat increased. I think it's just that the raw cameras, the raw cameras, yes, as the footage came, that color data. Then getting cracking, I can say set scene frames. Now what it's going to do is that my in and out point of my Blender project is, it's going to set according to the length of my footage. You want that, it's going to help. Then I'm going to click prefetch, and what this is going to do is it's going to cache the frames, so it helps you to sort of while you're working with your footage, that it works a lot faster. So prefetch, doesn't take that long. pretty nice. Now you can see when I press play, it instantly plays. The next thing you want to do is press save, and you can see my other attempts that I've tried, because I've tried different things, and I'm gonna say tutorial track, save. Okay, cool. So I've got my list of settings here that I've tried, and well, there are many ways of placing down your tracking point, so you can manually do it. All right, I think it's command click, there you go, put the tracking point down, and you can adjust the settings. With so much movement, I just found it best to get Blender to just find all those tracking points for you. But the first thing that I want to do is over in my track settings, okay, tracking settings, extra, this correlation right over here, all right, which is according to Blender, default minimal value of correlation between match patterns and reference that is still treated as successful tracking. Don't know what that means, but I'm clicking on it and I'm entering the value 0.9, which is 0.900. Always done this, it works. All right, then this is where the fun starts. So I need to put down tracking marks, because basically what tracking marks are doing is it's going to track a certain point, but you don't just want to track the part where you want to put something down. You also want to track as much items as you can around within your scene, because that actually helps Blender to sort of figure out what's going on in your footage, right? I think the best way to describe this is that if I have to close my eyes and I have to feel my way around, if I feel with one hand like this, I just feel wall, and it'll be difficult to feel if something is turning, how big it is, how big it's turning. All I feel is one, you know, and remember when you're tracking, you just put your hand down on one spot and then you feel its movement, and you're not quite sure, because a pan and a tilt will sort of feel the same. So it's better just to sort of get as much tracking marks as you can, get them as successful as possible, and you'll see Blender figures it out quite quickly. So the way that I do that is I can click on this, and it's called detect features. Now we're going to click detect features. It's going to bring out my settings over here that I can adjust, and I'm going to set my threshold to 0.001. Now look at the amount of trackers there are. Once I enter this, it's going to put more trackers onto your scene. The other thing is my distance. All right, let's see what according to Blender my distance is. It's the minimal distance accepted between two features. I'm guessing that is a feature, and I'm bringing this down to 80. Boom, more of them. Okay, great. So the next thing now that I want to do is, now we're going to take a deep breath and we're going to hit track. All right, you ready? So come over here, you'll see there's 3 panels. Hit solve. Okay, I think before we do that, you need to just adjust these, and you can select specifically which between which 2 frames there's more like a parallax effect. Parallax meaning the foreground is moving at a different speed than your background, and that's just because if you think about it, me sitting at my desk now, if I do this, my desk hasn't moved as much as the background, and that parallax effect helps to solve your camera's movement. Now Blender's beautiful because I can just say keyframe, and I'll just leave it up to Blender to do the work. The other thing is that I can get it to refine my focal length. If you know your camera settings, your focal length and all of that stuff, you can put it in there over here. So if you look at this menu over here, I think it's in, yeah, in, go to track, and you can put in all of your stuff for you. I do know it, but I'm just gonna get Blender to do the things for me. I'm gonna click all 3 of them, get Blender right. And in fact, okay. Alright, so we didn't actually need to go do that yet, but anyway, at least it's done. Let's see what happens if I do it early. Alright, I'm going to close track settings, I'm going to go to track, and now what I can do is I'm going to track forward. But let's see, the one track over here will just move forward. So what it's going to do is now I'm going to click it and it's going to track for me. and you'll see it'll get to a certain point, and that's fine, because what happens is that the part that you first detected features on goes out the frame. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down more track markers, but I'm not going to do it right at the end. I'm going to do it more towards sort of in between here. But you need to take note of what frame you did it, because I need to go forward and I need to go backwards. I'm going to click detect features again. Great. So I am on frame 56, and then I can do this here, or I can do this here. Track forward. It's going to track. Pretty great. I'm going to come back to frame 56, and I'm going to track now backwards. Awesome. Alright, there you go. But now the same happens, because if I go more on my footage, you'll see more track markers are disappearing. So, and you can see over here all the tracks. Don't worry about all the, you know, all the different lines and squiggles and stuff. We'll clean that up, don't stress. Okay, we're gonna get to maybe about over here. Alright, remember what frame you're at, 139. Detect features. Track forward. Okay, that was a lot better, just because we don't move as much off. Okay, 139, and I'm going to track backwards. What happens is that the overlaying tracks work together, so that's pretty awesome. Okay, and something that you can do is that you can press Alt D, and what it does is, because you can see there's a whole lot of markers here that are yellow, and then there are others that have looked like they've just died off, and those are the ones that have lost track, and that's cool, it's no problem. So if you press Alt D, what that is going to do is it's going to hide the dead ones for you, so you can see exactly when you have how many trackers you have on your scene that are actually still good. Okay. Now what this is, from what I can see, is this is the amount of movement. But now we need to clear these trackers up, because there are ones that, like, you'll actually see if you look at this one over here, there are ones that slide off unnecessary, and you can see that it's going out. Alright, this line or graph over here is a representation of, you can see where there's a lot of the markers. You can see how a lot of the markers are working together. Okay, and I almost take the green and the red as you know, Blender's picked up two like almost unison sort of tracks. Okay, hit save because you don't want to lose that. Okay, now it comes to cleaning up. Okay, I think I'm happy with this. I hope this track is successful, because if it's not, my goodness. So there, for example, I've picked up one that is not working. Okay, so I can click on it, I can press X, I can see all the ones. And by the way, on Mac, I'm scrolling down and pressing Command just to get it down like this, and you can actually see like this line over here, you can delete it, this one over here, you can just sort of clean up. You can see the ones that are going way off. We're actually going to refine this a bit better as we go along. I'm not even going to have a look at them, I'm just going, because the thing is that with Blender you need a minimal of, I believe, 8 or 9 track points for it to have a successful track. So, you know, I've got more than enough. Got lots, tons, and obviously the more the merrier. Looks like some are going sort of online. Yeah, I'm not going to change my password. And by the way, my show is not sponsored by Nord. Okay, so you'll see these lines over here. That's where tracks basically begun and ended. Okay, I'm just wondering about these tracks over here. Let's see what they're doing. No, they look alright, and you can see it's a different point. Now I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to try and solve this. Alright, so solve section. Now at least we don't have to go through any of those settings. Don't need to worry about them. There is this cleanup section over here. Okay. I can clean them. I can click like this. I don't know if it's going to give me, in fact, I don't think I'm going to get much of a error using now until I solve camera motion. Although hey, what the heck, let's give it a try. I don't, oh yes, they do work. Okay, so in other words, I can select a specific threshold and I can say, hey, any track frames over, let's say 100, eh? Usually a good track, but it hasn't camera solved properly yet. Usually, see, I'm going to delete all of these, which I don't want to do. Usually a good track is, I'm going to just try and sort of push it up until, okay, tell you what, let's just camera solve, and you'll see it's going to camera solve. It could take a bit of time. I think I needed to actually highlight and select my keyframes, but we'll find out soon enough. Okay, complete solution, refining solution. I think we're only going to like a minute now. And now if you look over here, solve error 0.72, which is actually very good. It's actually very good. Now you'll see what happens is that if you go to clean tracks and you go to error, your reprojection error, this, so if there's keyframes that have over 1, there you go. Maybe 2. Now what happens is that I'm able to actually refine them just to get rid of a few. Maybe you might find you're sitting at 5 and there's a lot of them. So for example, there you go, there I've got a 5 and I can just delete it. Alright, just to clear things up here, your reprojection error is basically any number that you're placing there. That being said, that your solve error, the lower the number, the more confident the track is. The higher the number, the less confident and the worse the track is. So when you put a value in there of, let's say 1, that means track markers with the solve error of 1 and more. It will select those tracks. So therefore, when you delete tracks that are less confident, then you make your entire tracking scene more stable. Yes, so that's how it works. So in other words, with this clean tracks, I'm actually able to sort of get rid of the loose little ones that are running around. If your solve error is over 1, I would definitely try and get it down. I know sometimes I've had track errors that are like 48 or something like that. Sometimes, in fact, the ones I had an infinite, and then I needed to like really do some good cleanup. I mean, I can probably even say 1, for crying out loud, 2. Okay, and you'll find, you know, I mean, I don't really need to do this now because I think I've got a good track. So if I really want, you know, if I'm getting a high solve error, then I would definitely look at cleaning up the ones. I mean, like I said, I've had a bad solve error, and let me tell you, I went through this cleaning and I had it pretty fast. Okay, pretty fast. All right, you ready for this? So I've got my solve error. I'm gonna hit save. Now, if I have cleaned up tracks, I would need to hit solve camera motion again. I'm not going to. I'm going to see what Blender has done with what it's solved. Let's put it that way. So in my scene setup, I'm going to say set as background, and now on the top here I've got my actual, it's put my camera footage as a background in the compositing. Okay, now the next thing I would need to do is say set up tracking scene. So I'm going to set up tracking scene, and now it's placed my scene within my tracked footage. Right, I'm going to hit save, and although you can see everything moving, I need to tell Blender now where my ground is. I need to tell it where certain axes are, just to help my scene, because although it looks like the square is not sitting still, you can see when I scroll around here how the cube is a lot further back, and you can see over here is this platform and there's the back, so it's not sitting properly. And the first thing that I need to do is over here in my orientation, I need to set my floor. No, first my origin, and then I'll choose my floor, and then I'll set my X and Y if I'm still not happy by then. Okay, so here we go. And I think that because I'm working with this area over here, alright, the last time I did this there was actually a nice there was a tracker sitting right in the center. It was wonderful. So I'm going to choose this guy. Okay, look at the average error, 0.3, so that's nice. I'm going to say set origin. Okay, and on this side I'm going to go back to my, okay, shouldn't have done that. I just made the cube my camera. So I'm going to select my camera there if you get stuck too. Alright, let's try that again. I'm just going to go to X-ray, background, because I don't see my my footage. Okay, it is there. Alright, and now you can see as I move along here, now my cube kind of looks a bit more stationed. Let's see what's happening here. Okay, so it's put that right in the center. Now what I want to do is I want to choose my floor. I want to tell Blender where my floor is. And to choose your floor, you need to choose 3 good tracks. And it mustn't be your origin, because your origin is your origin. Right, that makes a lot of sense. Make sure it's on your floor. Make sure it's a track on your floor. This one is a bit difficult. But let's say, let's see if this works. You know, this is risk, people, because I mean, tracks can work out so different every time. So I'm going to say that is my floor, and it still doesn't look 100% right. Can't say that I'm 100% satisfied. Okay. Let's say I say this one. Oh, I don't know. Maybe those ones. We select that one. Floor. Floor. These tracks with bundles are needed to orient the floor. Okay, I'm going to try the set X. So if I look at my scene here, let's say I want from my origin, which is this now. Let's say I choose this one and I say set X. Okay, we're getting there. And let's say I choose this guy and I say set Y. Maybe that will work, I don't know. Let's look through my footage, shall we? Cameras, active camera. The other thing that I can try and do. Okay, now if you look at my cube, if I do this, you can actually see how my cube is moving more in line of my scene. Alright, I'm going to change my layout to here. And now I can start playing around with my setup of my scene, just to make it easier. I mean, if you want to model something, you know, you kind of want your stuff, your ground. You don't want to have to like really play around with stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into over here, my view overlays, and I'm going to say motion tracking, and then you can see everything. I'm going to delete this over here, my ground. You can see how it's set up even different collections here. I'm going to hide that. And the last thing that I can really try is if I go so as far as I understand, there you can actually see that is my platform over there. Okay. Maybe I should choose another origin. What if I make this guy the origin? Okay, can you see? We're actually getting somewhere. That's looking good. It's looking much better. See there? So if I show the cube, and let's say I put this cube in the center over here, and I scale it down, and I go back to my camera. You can see where my cube is. Not too bad, huh? What do you say? Let's go here. I'm going to open up a new window. Let's try that again. And I want to make this my camera. And I want to be able to place my camera, my cube, on the ground. So I'm just going to move it up. See where my cube is sitting. Grab Y. Okay. And you can see how we've gotten a lot better, a lot closer. You can see exactly, and you can see I can use my markers. If they're too big for you, no problem. Just come here, and in your size, you can bring them a bit smaller. There you go. And that sort of helps. And there's my cube sitting on top. I suppose you can make it a bit smaller. Oh yes, and the last thing that the other thing that I want to show you guys is see, and there's my cube. Save. The last thing that I would love to show you guys is sizing as well. So there's my cube. You can see where it's sitting. Alright, it's beautiful. Okay, so yeah, we got our tracking right. That's awesome. If you find that the sizing of your scene is a bit difficult to work with, you can always use this scale scene here, and I can say that well, between, I would say 1 meter would be between here and here. Let's say that's 1 meter. Which I think it's possible. I don't know. Someone's looking at me and saying, dude, I've been there. There's no way that's 1 meter. And I can say distance, one unit, and I can say set scale. And that will also help just get things more into perspective for you. Okay. And there's your tracking. We've basically gotten our tracking. I've showed you how to camera track. Alright, a few things that you just need to solve if it's not coming right. Looking at your camera settings, looking at your setup and detecting your features, blah blah blah, color management, all of that stuff. Hope you guys took note. And once you got a good successful track, setting your scale, setting your floor, your origin and all that stuff. So next week what we're going to be looking at is to light up your scene according to your live action footage. Alright, and we're going to make our own HDRIs. Very simple, very easy, with a very cool app that I found that you can download on your mobile, and it's free. And it makes great HDRIs because I did make a HDRI for this scene. Alright, if you don't believe me, there it is. Made my own HDRI, so I stood there. Alright, you can see it's not perfect, but it's okay. It's not 100% perfect, but I'd say it's maybe 95% perfect, but it's an HDRI, and this HDRI lit my scene, my whole scene, and I stood there and I did it very quickly, because I was actually with my wife. We came out because we had watched Spider-Man and I saw something interesting, and then I decided to quickly shoot it with my iPhone. This is iPhone footage shot in 4K. 6S, by the way, nothing new and spectacular. Then I did my HDRI very fast while she was there, and we continued with our romantic date. Alright, so guys, next week, please like this video because I know you liked it. I know that this has helped you, and it blessed me. And well, not making this video, but what I'd learned. And to support what we're doing here, please subscribe. And yeah, so I'll see you guys next week because you'll get notified when the next video will be released. See you then. Cheers.